Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Beyonce in the World, Making Meaning with Queen Bee in Troubled Times, by Wesleyan University Press, narrated by L. Malaika Cooper. Publisher's note: this audiobook will refer to visual elements included in the print and e-book editions of the book. Janelle Hobson. Forward. I have a vivid memory of encountering Beyonce Knowles-Carter while traveling through Rome in May 2013. I was on a tour of Italy with my mother, and we had already visited the famed Colosseum. In making our way back to our hotel, we had ventured through the labyrinthine tunnels of Rome's metro system running along Via Veneto. As native New Yorkers, quite used to our subway system, we thought nothing of finding our way through another city's transit. But as foreign tourists with little to no fluency in the local language, we soon became disoriented at the never-ending, winding pathway of that metro until we landed on a familiar sight that fostered a sense of relief and recognition. A prominent H&M transit ad, depicting our celebrated African-American pop star, with whom we identified but whose sexualized persona seemed to transcend her racial and ethnic specificities. This image was a strategic selection by the H&M clothing line to promote a blonde bombshell rendering of the pop star that most of its consumers preferred in comparison to her darker-haired image featured in the video for the singer's Standing in the Sun single advertising the company's summer collection that year. Set against a deep sky blue backdrop and posing provocatively in a yellow bikini in the ad, Beyoncé's light skin gave the impression of a golden tan achievable across all racial complexions, even as her brown skin signaled her racial identity. The honey blonde highlights of her luxurious hair combined white aspirations with the bootylicious blackness of her bikini-clad curves that were almost slimmed down through Photoshop until Beyoncé intervened, while her golden bangles and the hibiscus place in her hair situated her in a longer tradition of exotic beauty located in the tropical global south. Such an image contrasted with earlier footage of the pop star in braids and Afrocentric attire as she vacationed with her husband, Jay-Z, in Cuba for their wedding anniversary the month before, a move that stirred controversy amid tensions between the United States and the Caribbean island nation. The beauty ideal depicted in the H&M ad traveled far more smoothly than the singer did visiting Cuba, as her image successfully blurred the U.S. color line while traversing national borders, whether in the tropical climate of the Bahamian setting of the ad or in a world cosmopolitan setting like Rome. Beyoncé's commercial image, while carefully constructed for global appeal, also provided local solace for two Black women navigating their way through a European city. Returning home to the United States, I immediately encountered Beyoncé in a different way. This time, I was greeted by urgent voicemail messages from a senior editor at Miss Magazine, who not only announced that my cover story, Beyoncé's Fierce Feminism, had hit newsstands, but that its cover drew sharp criticism and ire from its most devoted feminist readers. Many of these readers decried on the magazine's social media page, "How dare the premier feminist magazine in the nation hail such a sex symbol as a feminist?" How much of this outright condemnation was based on Beyoncé's adherence to a beauty ideal deemed oppressive to women? How much of this discomfort is tied to her identity as a Black woman who is racially other enough to connote a heightened sexuality, while also light enough to benefit from close proximity to whiteness? And why was her image, a global marketing success, perceived to be incompatible with feminism? It is quite easy to respond to such questions with the usual feminist talking points of appealing to the male gaze or commercializing political messages through women's objectification in the various media campaigns the pop star engaged. But Beyoncé wrested control of this discourse when, 7 months after my Miss cover story, she released her unprecedented self-titled visual album featuring sampled snippets from the TED Talk We Should All Be Feminists by celebrated Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, 2013. This speech act not only gave the pop star the language to hit back at her critics with a political diss, but it was also accessible through YouTube, a digital wellspring of inspirational speeches and commentary, homemade videos, vernacular dance moves, and various documentary footage from around the globe from which Beyoncé derives many of her artistic influences. I offer this preamble as a way to highlight the provocative ways that Beyoncé disrupts lines, borders, and boundaries, racial, national, political, and digital, in her status as a world entertainer. This is a theme Emily J. Lordy already observed when she reviewed her self-titled album, in which she described the pop star as testing, respecting, and dissolving borders between different facets of the self. Lordy, 2013. With a career spanning over 2 decades, it is to Beyoncé's credit that she has managed to be that bitch causing all this conversation across a variety of themes that shape this rich book. Beyoncé in the World, Making Meaning with Queen Bee in Troubled Times, the latest contribution to the growing field of Beyoncé studies. Part of Beyoncé's achievement in being much talked about stems from her keen insight into the cultural zeitgeist of the different moments of each era, her stunning work ethic, her engagements with digital culture, and her political sensibility to think globally and act locally. Fast forward 5 years, after appearing in a transit ad in Rome, to 2018, when Beyoncé generated headlines for allegedly attempting but failing to gain access to the city's Coliseum for a film project. Given the glee some took in reporting on Beyoncé's failed conquest, so to speak, in claiming the site for artistic use and cultural commentary, coming on the heels of the apeshit music video that she and Jay-Z had filmed at the world-famous Louvre Museum in Paris, during their world tour and as a lead single off their joint album, Everything Is Love. We may recognize here how Beyoncé has significantly flipped the script of her global image in ways that some might deem threatening. Instead of passively being displayed as a racially transcendent sex symbol, the pop star flexed some power moves to appropriate symbols of Western civilization in the interests of Black aesthetics, as she and Jay-Z already demonstrated with their Louvre-based video. No longer adhering to a racially ambiguous image that marked her early success when she ascended to stardom, Beyoncé has emerged alongside her family and community, from her husband to her daughter, Blue Ivy, to her background dancers and artists, to not only assert a Black identity, but to occupy, take up, and expand space in that Blackness. This was deftly and subversively portrayed in the apeshit video when a Black couple was staged before Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece, Mona Lisa, as the woman picked the man's afro, the Carters, 2018. The juxtaposition of an eminent work of Western art with a Black couple engaging in such an intimate act of grooming and hair care, an act that African Americans have historically hidden from the white gaze to protect from its denigration, quite literally, of Black bodies and Black hair textures, illuminates the complex ways that Beyoncé continues to boldly disrupt arbitrary lines between public and private, white and Black, elite and vernacular, refinement and vulgarity, specifically in the use of profanity and a throwback to racist slurs in the song title, art and pop culture, and object and subject. The last point is most poignantly demonstrated through Beyoncé's repositioning of Marie Guillemine Benoit's Portrait d'une Négresse, 1800, the sole depiction of a Black woman in portraiture at the Louvre, which makes an appearance at video's end. Long reduced to a nameless object in Western art history, Benoit's Négresse was finally given subjectivity and called by her name, Madeleine, as she opened the special exhibit Les Modèles Noirs de Jéricho à Matisse, curated by African-American art historian Denise Murrell at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris in 2019. The year before, however, Beyoncé had already placed Madeleine in conversation with herself and her fellow Black women dancers, whose choreography in the space of the Louvre meticulously created objets d'art, tableaux come to life. Signifying on Black feminist artist Faith Ringgold's Dancing at the Louvre, 1991, and dialoguing with her sister, Solange Knowles, who previously performed similar choreography with a troupe of Black women at New York City's Guggenheim Museum, Beyoncé continues to complicate her role on the world stage, not just as an entertainer, but as a high-concept artist collapsing divisions between fine arts and popular culture. Moreover, Tanisha Ford, 2019, suggests that we understand Beyoncé not just as an artist, but as a curator with her own artistic style of arranging multiple art projects. Labeling this style B Arts Aesthetics, Ford asserts, if B were to have her own school of thought or artistic style and philosophy, akin to that of the École des Beaux-Arts, her style could be described as simultaneously ornate with slick, modern lines, both playful and thoughtful in the way it conjures and signifies, drawing from established fine arts canons while also centering a Black diasporic culture and epistemology. Ford further recognizes how this artistic style developed through a curatorial impulse emanating from the pop star's engagement with public space. Like any other accomplished performance artist, Beyoncé uses the space allotted to her, from cultural institutions like museums to the high-tech stages of her world tours to the digital space of Instagram, to produce interactive art with her audience. Her specific use of social media enabled the pop star to establish creative control over her artistic content and mold the voice she would offer the public. As Elodie Maliette-Storm notes, the internet, from Tumblr, where she first posted a photo of her oldest child, baby daughter Blue Ivy, in 2012, to Instagram a year later, where she featured a Warhol-inspired Pepsi post as part of her $50 million endorsement deal with the company, empowered Beyoncé to redefine the ways in which she is not just the model, she's become the medium itself. 2019, 94. The importance of her negotiating creative control within her Pepsi deal cannot be overstated as the pop star crafted a lucrative opportunity to maintain the autonomy of her art with corporate assistance. While these conditions place her squarely within what Andy Zeisler, 2017, laments as marketplace feminism, Beyoncé's massive platform unleashed unexpected consequences for the feminist movement. It was her Pepsi-funded halftime show at the Super Bowl in 2013 that brought her to the attention of the Feminist Majority Foundation, alongside her Chime for Change global campaign, co-founded with Selma Hayek, championing gender equality, which subsequently prompted the request that I write an article for Miss on Beyoncé's feminism. It was also through the jaws of commercialism that Beyoncé snatched the opportunity for artistic control over her self-titled album, which she released at the end of the year on her own terms through her surprise album drop via social media. This game-changing album further crafted a full sexual autonomy for her star persona, politicized by a feminist sample as well as a commitment to the visual medium as she accompanied each track with a corresponding music video in an unprecedented move to create what she called a visual album. As Candice Benbow, 2019, reminds us, this autonomy reflects an earlier move by the pop star to kill off her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, the sexualized vixen that represented her public performative self, a figurative death that came on the heels of her establishment of her independent company, Parkwood Entertainment, as well as her separation from her manager-father, Matthew Knowles. Beyoncé's creation of Sasha Fierce, Benbow notes, stems from the Southern Black church tradition in which she was raised and in which Beyoncé could not escape the bifurcation of Black women's spirituality and sexual identity. As church girls, many of us understood those Jesus tracks and Sasha Fierce's existence as B's attempt to navigate the liminal space of fully owning her budding pop icon status and proving that she was still the same sweet girl from Houston. 2019, 132. It is no wonder, then, that her self-titled album, Beyoncé, represented the full integration of both her respectable and sexual self once she asserted complete control in releasing her album. As Lordy observes, if Beyoncé's 2008 album, I Am, Sasha Fierce, bifurcated Beyoncé into two personae, good girl and bad diva, this album integrates myriad identities under the banner of a holistically multifaceted Beyoncé. 2013. More than her sexual expression, Beyoncé also affirms a more self-assured political voice and even suggests, through her maturing journey from the little girl seeking approval on the opening track, Pretty Hurts, to the sexy Black mama she had become on the closing bonus track, Grown Woman, that her sexual agency intertwines with her feminist politics and that romantic love can start a revolution, as literally captured in the song and video for Superpower, a track featuring duet vocals with R&B singer Frank Ocean. Here, Beyoncé opens the video decked out in sexy military green and black attire as she pulls a black mask over her face, giving the effect of a niqab-wearing or anarchist militant that recalls both the Arab Spring and Occupy Wall Street protests. She is soon joined by a diverse crowd across gender-variant, racial, and ethnic differences, engaging in what appears to be a social uprising before she comes across a masked young Black man lying on the ground and cradles him, breathing new life into him as he joins her in the political protest. That the video ends with the protesting crowd confronting a police force in riot gear as the lovers hold hands in their show of unified strength uncannily foreshadows the 2014 racial unrest on the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, that launched the Black Lives Matter movement a year later. It is worth noting that before the release of her self-titled album, Beyoncé and Jay-Z had attended a Trayvon Martin rally in Brooklyn during the summer of 2013 in the wake of the acquittal of George Zimmerman for his murder, which ignited the hashtag Black Lives Matter, coined by Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Opal Tometi. Given how Beyoncé and Jay-Z distracted from the rally with their appearance, it was inevitable that both artists would turn to their art for more effective protest. Even then, Beyoncé's communication of her political views is often sporadic and carefully crafted, specifically in the way she mobilizes Instagram, an image-based site that has served as a canvas on which to paint her artistic vision or document her various conversations with art. This is seen in her sharing of photos of her family visiting Kara Walker's A Subtlety, the artist's first public installation in Brooklyn, or posing with Jay-Z before Da Vinci's Mona Lisa in a private visit to the Louvre, a pictorial they would later recreate for the opening and closing shots of their Apeshit video, or introducing her millions of followers to the music of French-Cuban duo Ibeyi, whose single River, an ode to Oshun, the Yoruba Santeria fertility Orisha, accompanied the photo shoot for her September 2015 Vogue cover. Unbeknown to her fans, Beyoncé's wet-haired look and her elaborate gown for this Vogue shoot foreshadowed imagery from her magnum opus, Lemonade, her second visual album on which, incidentally, both Oshun and Ibeyi would make appearances the following year. Unlike other celebrities who routinely express their opinions or engage in arguments on their social media accounts, Beyoncé creates a partition, as it were, between her public persona and her private life, selectively choosing aspects of her life she is willing to share while aggrandizing those scenes to correlate to communal or public concerns, as we see with Lemonade, the subject of several essays in this book. This careful selection is in keeping with her B-Arts aesthetic, to reiterate Ford, 2019, in which both the sonic remixes and the visual imagery on this audiovisual project convey a conflation between the ornate and the modern, a temporal collapse between the past and the present, or as Beyonce muses, the past and future merge to meet us here. Beyonce, 2016. This rendering of B-Arts is also captured in the pop star's Vogue cover for the September 2018 issue, photographed by Tyler Mitchell, who was handpicked by Beyonce as Vogue's first African-American photographer. Her flower crown depicted on the cover gestures to both an Instagram filter option and the ornate style of classical art, while her Vogue feature eschewed the usual interview format and presented the pop star's first-person views on her body, her status as a mother to Blue and twins Sir and Rumi, and her multiracial Creole lineage in the Gulf Coast region, begun with the story of a white slave owner who married his black slave. While tabloids eagerly shared the details of her genealogy, we didn't need their detective work when Lemonade aptly shed light on the legacy of slavery and violence echoed in black women's pain in the present, glimpsed through sweeping cinematic landscapes of Louisiana plantations, steampunk costumes merging Victorian style with contemporary fashions, and poetic musings. 2016. Interestingly, in the commentary for her Netflix documentary, Homecoming, 2019, highlighting her historic concert at the 2018 Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, Beyoncé jokingly referenced how concert organizers simply wanted her to bring her flower crown to the show, while she insisted on bringing the entire culture with her in a gesture that literally embodies what Anna Julia Cooper once wrote in 1892. Only the black woman can say, "When and where I enter, the whole Negro race enters with me." As the first black woman to headline Coachella, Beyoncé brought it all. The Nefertiti crown, the performance of the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, the marching bands of historically black colleges and universities, HBCU, the black J-set dancers who are a staple at HBCU sports games, the step routines of black fraternities and sororities, the break dancers, the mashup of Nina Simone's Lilac Wine with her own Drunken Love, the hip-hop, trap, reggae, and reggaeton jams that blare at every cookout, carnival, or neighborhood party in Caribbean and U.S.-based Black and Afro-Latinx communities, and specifically for the documentary, the Black feminist statements of our most celebrated Black women, some of whom hail from the same HBCU culture that she celebrated: Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Maya Angelou, and Audre Lorde. As B gushed about the Black excellence she had gathered and uplifted, "So much damn swag." Beyonce, 2019, B. That she followed her love of Black Southern HBCU culture from her memories of growing up in Houston, Texas, with a wider embrace of the African continent through her Afrobeat-inspired The Gift, an album accompanying her involvement with the live-action remake of Disney's The Lion King, set in Africa, demonstrates Beyoncé's tireless efforts to connect the local with the global and to celebrate Blackness everywhere, especially in the commercialized spaces she has accessed. 2019, A. We see this especially with her third visual album, Black is King, 2020, a visual spectacle of Africa and its diaspora that fully restored the Black humanity at the heart of The Lion King, sponsored by Disney and made available on its streaming platform, Disney+. This celebration is not without its problems, however. The video for Spirit, her original song for The Lion King, Beyonce 2019 C, was accused of plagiarizing the work of Congolese artist Petite Noir, who incidentally collaborated on previous projects with Beyoncé's sister, Solange. Similarly, Black is King, widely praised as a masterpiece, nonetheless received accusations that Beyoncé, an African-American artist, engaged in cultural appropriation of diverse African cultures. Such accusations are a constant complaint throughout her repertoire, in which Beyoncé is often viewed as stealing at worst, or appropriating at best, the work of unknown local artists, from the dance moves of the Mozambican group Tofu Tofu, whom she discovered on YouTube and invited to choreograph the video for Run the World, Girls, 2011, to her sampling without permission the voices of local queer celebrities in New Orleans for Formation, 2016, to even claiming HBCU culture for Coachella when she herself never attended college. These objections recall the earlier criticisms of feminists who accused the pop star of usurping and thereby deradicalizing their political message, perhaps best exemplified when she stood in front of a feminist sign at MTV's Video Music Awards show in 2014 after performing a provocative pole dance. Beyoncé's fame, wealth, beauty, hyper-feminine sexuality, and light-skin privilege position her less for solidarity and more for exploitation. And yet, as Tamara Winfrey Harris rightly argues, Beyoncé's public platforms have done the necessary work of enhancing the visibility of Black art, protest, and feminist statements. As Harris reminds us, critics call for Beyoncé to toss off her extensions, makeup, and booty-bearing sequined onesies, to eschew all talk of Lambos and yachts, to quit stacking money, and just talk revolution, when they know good and damn well that broke B, without all the artifice, wouldn't have a platform or power to speak on feminism or blackness to the masses. Getting rich may not be radical, but richness can be leveraged for radical things. 2019, 157. Beyoncé's leverage of radical things on her corporate-funded platforms, alongside her curatorial statements via social media, is what enables us to now have a meaningful conversation within the academic and intellectual worlds that the chapter authors inhabit. The chapters assembled here make deep, provocative meaning of Queen Bee's complex repertoire, her performances, her messaging, and her embodiment. Editors Christina Baade and Kristen McGee have organized the 14 essays into sectional and dialogical pairings, an effective approach that encourages a conversational quality for much of this scholarly discourse. These chapters cover Beyoncé's musical and cinematic lineage, her diverse fan communities, local and global framings, queer and faith-based responses to her star persona and music, and issues of protest, dissent, healing, and community. That there is so much to say about Beyoncé conveys the serious power that she holds. Of course, power has been that elusive status the pop star has been chasing since the early days of her solo career, as Daphne Brooks asserts in one of the earliest scholarly critiques on Beyoncé, featured in the special issue, Representin', Women, Hip-Hop, and Popular Music, that I had guest co-edited with R. Diane Bartlow for Meridians, 2008. Taking note of the various ways Beyoncé issued demands and directions, wresting control of her music and relationships, as sonically demonstrated on her sophomore album, B-Day, 2006, Brooks, 2008, identifies the recurring motif of power as Beyoncé's ultimate goal across her artistic projects. It is therefore unsurprising that her more recent album, The Gift, 2019, would feature a song, My Power, in collaboration with African-American rapper Tierra Whack, Nigerian singer Yemi Alade, and South African pop artists Busiswa and Moonchild Sanele. While not nearly as popular as her other track, Brown Skin Girl, which does much to refute erasures of dark-skinned Black women, including her own earlier history, as exemplified by the H&M ad that I had encountered in Italy, My Power unapologetically asserts Beyoncé's success, shored up by the cultural, political, and economic power she has amassed in the interests of a feminist and Black diasporic consciousness. They will never take my power, my power, my power.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?